Hoosier fans, and welcome to another edition of the Three Man Weave. Only two men weaving today. Nathan
Yeah.
Brown already headed home for the winter break.
Yeah, he had this one off. So
He'll be back
we're
here for a
cutting
little
the
bit more coverage later on in the break, but we're running the two-man weave
Yeah,
today.
you're
It's a
stuck with
two-man
us
break.
right now.
But
Sorry.
you know what? We're just joining you here from Assembly Hall after IU's 93-54 victory over Mount St. Mary's. Mike Norman, Max McCombs joining you here from Assembly Hall. And Max, you know, we kind of talked about it after the Butler game. IU just could not do a great job on the boards against Butler. Completely different story here today.
Yeah, rebound was the operative word today for sure, because they're looking to rebound from that loss that was caused in large part by lack of rebounding. And I mean, you know, the thing is, Butler was undersized compared to IU, maybe not quite as much as Mount St. Mary's, but Mount St. Mary's was really undersized. But either way, they really came back, and they told us over and over that was the focus in practice this week, and I'm inclined to believe them by what we saw today. The margin sort of speaks for itself, 41-18, and that's absolutely dominant.
A
as
huge
far as
margin
rebounds.
of victory.
Yeah.
And
the 18 rebounds is the fewest allowed by IU to an opponent this season. I mean, as it happens, Butler was the only game in which IU has been out-rebounded this season. So, I mean, I think we've been able to find little criticisms about that almost all season. But all things considered, it really has been a strength. I think it's largely been that IU hasn't had one guy consistently hitting double figures, because they really haven't. Not even Zeller. I mean, and tonight it was Christian Watford leading the way with 8.
I was going to say, you know, just a balanced team rebounding approach today.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's really how it is this whole season, I feel.
Opposite of the Butler game, though. And in that Butler game, it seemed that just people weren't rebounding at the capabilities that they were. Cody Zeller only had 5 rebounds. Christian Watford went long periods of time without having a rebound, just stretches, whether it was foul trouble that he was in, but really got after it tonight. He had 7 defensive rebounds, 1 offensive rebounds for 8 rebounds in the game. Zeller fouled with 6. So the big men doing work down low.
And not to mention, Watford also had 15 points. I mean, I think he wasn't quite the leading scorer. Zeller had 16, and Sheehy had 16. But if you're gonna name a player of the game, I think it was probably Watford, because I think he looked great on defense, maybe the best he's been on defense all season. I mean, this is when you are outmatch a team that size-wise and whatnot, like we saw tonight. I think that's where Watford really shines. I mean, everyone is better when you're mismatched, you know, but I think the way Watford's game works, he's able to just take advantage of those mismatches so well.
Also taking advantage of getting after it early. When he is at his best, he's scoring early, hitting a couple 3-pointers early like we saw him do. He started 2 for 2 from downtown. And you know what? That's just where his game begins. And that goes along with the energy that you talk about. And rebounding is energy. It's all about hustle. It's about determination. It's about positioning. And, you know, IU was right there in that sort of sense. Just talking about the shooting performance from IU.
We got to talk about that.
The 4th best shooting performance in the history of IU basketball was tonight. IU shot 72% from the field in the first half, 69% in the second half, for 70.6 total. A marvelous performance from the shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try to do the math right now, but I got to figure that's probably like one miss had been a make or something like that, something that minuscule, and we might have been looking at the best performance of the season or in history for IU.
And when you look at it, it wasn't like they're taking a lot of outside shots. You know, they went 9 of 12 from downtown, but most of their shots were just bunnies. They were gimmies. They were little layups right next to the basket.
Yeah, and because granted, not to kick a man while he's down, but Mount St. Mary's is not a great team, especially not on defense, because if you look at one of the IU tonight, its shooting performance was the 3rd best by a D1 team against another D1 team this season. One of the other performances ahead of that was Pittsburgh, also against Mount St. Mary's. That tells you something. So you can't come away from this too proud. You know, this isn't something to put on your proverbial resume necessarily. But that said, you can't fault it either.
Yeah, you know, Mount St. Mary's might have to do a little bit better locking down on the defensive end, but, you know, IU certainly did a lot of things to exploit weaknesses that Mount St. Mary's provided there. In particular, just Will Sheehy's energy off the bench. You know, when you look at the stats, He only played 24 minutes, but 16 points. And, most of those points are in the beginning parts of his minutes. He was getting some garbage time at the end. He just provides a lot of energy off the bench, and it's that quick energy, that quick scoring that's really the difference with him.
Yeah, I think he's gotten a lot more aggressive on defense in the last couple of games, and I think that is because of his scoring. He knows that if he gets the ball, he might be able to just tear down the court and score it, and I think that's made him more aggressive, which is a good thing for IU, because early on his defense had left a little bit to be desired, but I think we've seen improvement with his overall game just in the last couple of contests.
I think we've seen improvements from a lot of people just in general. If you look at the night that Yogi Ferrell had.
That's exactly who I was going to say. 9 assists, career high, season high. He's a freshman.
Yeah, and only 2 turnovers to boot for that. And if you look at the game against Butler, Ferrell had a fairly good game in terms of assists, but he also had 6 turnovers. And that was one of the big things. Obviously, if you're going to judge a freshman point guard, the guy with the ball in his hand at all times, especially in high-pressure games, you're going to look at turnovers. And bounce back from that, just was able to do whatever he wanted on the offensive end. Just tore Mount St. Mary's apart. And you know what? That's why he's McDonald's All-American. That's why he's that high recruit, because he has the ability to do that game in, game out.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a player, a freshman, really finding his role at this point, about a third of the way through the season, which is about when you'd expect them to, who is going to be a contributor as a freshman, someone to really find their niche. And I think he has. He's realized that the team doesn't need him to be the scorer this season, but his passing was great to begin with and is getting better and better. He's definitely a smarter decision maker and whatnot. And I think you can look at the teammates he has with Halls and Remy Abel and whatnot as possible reasons for that, but maybe it's just experience and adjusting to the college game, and we're definitely seeing improvement from him. I don't think we're going to see him be a 20-point-a-game scorer at any point this season. I think we know what he's to. Exactly. We know what he's going to bring to the table this season. I think down the line, a couple of seasons from now, his scoring could be in line for quite an uptick. But I think this season he's found his role, and I think the fact that he knows what his role is now can't be anything but beneficial.
Hoosier scored 50 points in the paint compared to 14 points in the paint for Mount St. Mary's. Certainly Yogi Ferrell was a huge part of that. Set up a few guys just right underneath the basket, easy lay-ins, and that's what Ferrell brings to the team. But, overall, just a great performance from IU all around, 93-54 over Mount St. Mary's. Max, I don't know if there's much more to take away from that. Just, a solid game over a little bit of a weaker opponent.
Yeah, it's a sort of Mount St. Mary's is overmatched. Good for them for showing up, but that's all they could do. You look at the stat sheet, and there are a number of things that just jump out at you and sort of tell the whole story. I think it's worth noting both teams hit 9 3-pointers, and early on, granted we should mention it stayed close for a little bit early on, about the first maybe 8-10 minutes or so.
Yeah, even 12 minutes into it.
At one point, it was 30-26, and then it was right after that it got out of hand.
IU went on a 20-0 run
at one point,
right?
That was part of a 45-11 run, and that run ended basically because that's the point where the Jeff Howards of the world
they pulled off the dogs, so to speak. But overall, a great game to watch, and a very exciting one to watch, and coming back with a quick turnaround here. I got Friday coming up against Florida Atlantic,
which is another game that should help them get their momentum back, though I think that essentially happened tonight as much as they could have asked for.
They got the mojo back, so to speak.
But Florida Atlantic, I think, should be a slightly stronger opponent. I don't think we haven't really studied them there. I don't think even the team studied them too much yet. But I think it's the right thing for the team at this point to get back into their winning ways tonight, and I think going to a slightly tougher opponent can't do anything but help them.
Well, Hoosiers are back on the right track, defeating Mount St. Mary's 93-54. That will do it for us here at Assembly Hall. Thanks for following us on the IDS website. You can check out more 3-man weave throughout the rest of the season. Our third man shall be back at some point this year.
It'll be a couple. He'll be back for the Jacksonville game, so you'll be stuck with us for the next 2 days from now, the next game. But
we will do our best. We will hope to keep rolling like the Hoosiers.
Yeah, and as you said, we're updating this. We're not printing right now the IDS, but we're updating the site as much as we can. The team's still playing, so we're still covering them, obviously. So keep checking the site because we got plenty of stuff for you up there.
Check us out. Check out all the stuff that we have up there. But until then, I'm Michael Norman from Max McCombs and the IDS. Thanks for joining us, guys. You have a great one.
Take care.